Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Another week, finishing out the season here. We have one more week left against the Dolphins. It was pretty bad against the Bills. I have to admit, Eddie was 100% right when he said last week that the Bills were going to put a shellacking on the Jets, and I wasn't sure that was going to happen, but it definitely did happen. And whoever watched the game, we all saw how it went down. Eddie, what are your thoughts on the game in a nutshell?
Well, first of all, it's the same thing every game now with the Jets. whether they elect to kick off or whether they, or whether they get the other team, they're down 7-0 before they even get the offense gets on the field. The same thing happened again yesterday, right? The first opening drive, they marched down the field. They surprisingly though, they did seem to be able to move the ball a little bit in the first half. But they, the turnover, the interception, the turnover on downs, a couple things, they shot themselves in the foot again.
And the penalties.
I mean, when you're a Jet fan, you're happy you're going in 12-0 at halftime to Buffalo. At Buffalo, you're like, oh wow, it could be a lot worse. And then sure, the second half they just came out and they said, you know what, we're done. I just think they probably got yelled at in the lot. McDermott probably screamed them. How could you let this team, hang in this game? We got to just knock them out, and they did.
Yeah, you know which as we was talking about the penalties, you know which one made me laugh? Unfortunately, I don't know which play it was. You might know. It was a defensive player where he jumped on top of the pile.
Yes, yep.
I'm like,
why?
Don't these guys know any better? How does that guy not sitting on the bench after that? It's
Agreed.
like
why? Yeah. How do you? As we, I mentioned this before we went on live. They had 16 penalties for 120 penalty yards. Buffalo had 7 penalties. I mean, it's coaching, and it has to be. It's right. It's lack of discipline. I mean, how do you jump on a guy like that? I mean, I understand, Aaron Rodgers with his rough with his when after the interception return, the unnecessary roughness.
Yeah.
I kind of sense frustration on that play. I saw it. Was it really that hard of a hit? Do you have to throw that flag? That was a question. But some of those other pass interferences, just it's just sloppy, and
it's sloppy. And I mean, I can say this about a lot of players when I say who the hell is, and I can say who the hell is Aaron Rodgers and who the hell is Devontae Adams, but who the hell is Hassan Reddick? I haven't heard his name mentioned once. He was supposed to be another one of these. I mean, like I said, it's got to be some kind of whammy going on here. I'm like, I haven't heard him mentioned at all. And you couldn't wait for this guy to show up like every other Jet player we have on the team. And he's like a nobody, basically.
Agreed. I mean, it's it's tough. I mean, I know, they're down 40-0, and Tyree Taylor comes in and looks okay. His stats are decent. But, at that point, you can't really judge him because at that point, Buffalo is just, backing up at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I told my son the same thing. I'm like, all right, so he scored some touchdowns. I'm like, but it's garbage time. But still,
I did think though that they would still blitz. The first touchdown that he got, I do give him a little credit because Buffalo I think did want the shutout at that point.
Yeah,
they were still blitzing at that point before he scored that first touchdown. But after that, they didn't. The second one, they at that point they were done. Buffalo, they weren't gonna press.
Did you hear? I just want to be get this straight. I heard Rodgers say it himself. And some other sportscasters say it. Apparently, when it was like 33, I believe, to nothing or close to that score, Rodgers went over to the coach and said something about the score. And I guess it's Tyrod Taylor time. Like he actually took himself out of the game. Did you hear that?
I heard there was a conversation, and I heard Aaron Rodgers on the radio yesterday when I was actually going to pick up dinner. I was the post game on the radio, and I didn't see if he initiated the conversation or if it was head coach, but they definitely was a conversation. You think it's time? And then that was when it was 33-0, and Rodgers said when it was 40-0, it was inevitable he's coming in.
Yeah, and I believe the Rodgers story because I don't think anybody would have the balls to tell Rodgers you're not coming back in. So I believe that Aaron Rodgers probably said, "Hey," which also shows a lot about his character, like how what he's done. I mean, this is the Aaron Rodgers that I don't want to say we all knew. This is the Aaron Rodgers that I know, that I think I know, that I was like, he's a bit of a diva. He yells at his players and his receivers, and I know he has numbers. I know he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I just can't put him in the same light as like a Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, or I just haven't seen him do. I know everybody says he's spectacular, but I just haven't seen it. I don't get it. And I know he's good, but I just
Oh, the numbers don't lie, but I agree with you. I haven't, you know, I haven't I watched Tom Brady a lot closer than I did over the years Aaron
I was going to
Rodgers.
say, yeah, we don't really pay attention to Green Bay when obviously the Patriots and the AFC East, of course. That's
Playoff, yeah, a couple, the playoff games. If there's a,
yeah.
I spend, and also even with Patrick Mahomes, I saw him a lot. I watched him a lot more than I
Mhm.
did with Aaron Rodgers, and I'm more, as you said, I agree. I am more impressed with what I see out of Mahomes and what I see out of saw out of Tom Brady than I do
Yeah,
out of Aaron Rodgers. But again, like with the caveat, I haven't watched him as closely as those other two quarterbacks, and the
yeah.
numbers, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback with his numbers, but. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's gonna. This is an ugly, 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 ugly season that just gets ugly. The funny thing is, Dave, this is the funny part about our I think of I think of you every day when before the game comes on. I'm thinking, what's going to happen today? Is it going to
I know.
be worse than next week? I say, well, this is 40-0 at one point. It's worse than last week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like I said. Listen, I mean, it's all we know. I mean, we say the same thing every week and whatnot. So anyway, so moving on. Obviously, the Broncos. That was a great game.
That was a great game. That was a great game.
That was a great game.
Joe,
But now the
you
Broncos.
said it, Joe Burrows. I mean, this is the I hate to. This is the question though, Dave. With next week, Cincinnati. If Cincinnati beats Pittsburgh on Saturday, I believe they're playing.
Yeah.
And if Denver loses to Kansas City, Cincinnati gets in. Now,
But I think Miami has to lose to the Jets as well.
I'm not sure. I thought that. Let's
Hold
take
on.
a look. I'm not sure if that's the case. I think
Yeah,
Cincinnati.
because it looked like a really complicated process, unfortunately, for the Bengals. Okay, the Broncos win, they're in. The Dolphins win at the Jets, and the Broncos lose. The Bengals have to win at the Steelers, and the Broncos lose, and the Dolphins lose.
Okay.
So now, going back a few weeks ago, what you were saying, how the Bengals have no chance, now I realize it's really a tough spot now for them.
Because
And
the Jets aren't going to be. How can you expect the Jets to beat anybody?
I know, their heart's not in it. I mean,
Even if you're the Chiefs, also, would you want? First of all, Cincinnati might be the hottest team in football right now. Would you want to face them in the playoffs in divisional round? If you had anyone, I would want to.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was Kansas City, I'd say, hey, listen, let's beat Denver and then keep them out of this.
It's gonna be good. So now today, newsflash. I'm sure you might have got wind of this. Apparently, I don't know if Rex Ryan is saying this on his own, but Rex Ryan is expecting to interview for the head coaching job.
I heard that. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, why go back to something that didn't work out the first time? I mean, what? I don't get it, Dave. I don't see why
Yeah.
if I was on that committee, if they put me on that on a little, with a bunch of guys say, hey, listen, who should they interview? He would not be on the top 10 list.
Yeah. And also his name, along with Ron Rivera, so far, the only two guys mentioned.
I'm not that huge of a fan of Ron Rivera. I mean, was he?
You know what's funny? It's funny, funny in a sad way, Ed, that it's right back to what we started a few years ago. No matter who we have as a quarterback, a head coach, and it can't be any worse. And to say that with Aaron Rodgers as a starting quarterback is just something we could never have ever imagined. I mean, we have really, really somebody pulled a fast one on us. Basically, is what happened. I mean, they really got us good with this one. The joke's on us.
Agreed. Also, what's interesting is they're Garrett Wilson, is he coming back next year? It's fun. He got over 1,000 yards, so he's got his 7 touchdown receptions. I just but
they got to pay him. He has to come back. I mean, he's got to come back. I mean, there were so many question marks to be answered in the offseason.
Does he really want to come back here? Would you want to come back if it's
no? I'm sure he wouldn't.
Adams?
You know what's funny? If none of these alleged superstars came back next year, we probably would still have a better record. So it doesn't really faze me in the least, But I know Garrett Wilson's going to be a superstar, and he is a superstar. But yeah, we're at the point now where just put the whole average Joes out there, we probably have a 500 record, which you can't have anymore, But I'm saying this has just been like, a disaster.
Yeah, on another bright note, I thought that that the rookie running back played well. I thought.
Yeah, I forget his name. Yeah,
I think it was Isaiah. Was it Isaiah? Let me pull up the box score here. It was Isaiah Davis.
Yeah,
he looked decent. Even Brees Hall looked decent. He had 10 carries for 45 yards.
Yeah.
He looked decent as well.
Yeah. It's a sad time. We finished up against the Dolphins, and then it becomes an exciting time again for us because the offseason happens. And I feel so bad for the head coach that has to go out there and do these interviews after every loss. You know, I mean, and you know what's good about that? He knows he's not going to be the head coach next year, so he must have a whole different attitude. But like, who cares what I do? I'm not going to be the coach anyway, which is a unique situation if you think about it, right?
Well, but he also realized he probably wants to be a head coach down the road, and not this way, but he wants to. Or he also wants to get a job. He wants to be a defensive coordinator again. You know, he wants to get a job in the NFL somewhere. So, you know, the team falling apart like this and, you know, committing 16 penalties, you might think, you know, he couldn't discipline these guys. And on defense, he's making a lot of these dopey mistakes. So it's going to be interesting what happens to him. But it's just thank God they one more week and it's done. And
and I feel the same way at this point. Thank God it's going to be over soon. And then, of course, next week we'll talk about the results, and we'll probably. I'm assuming we'll have the playoff bracket by then. I know there's a Sunday night game. We talk after Sunday. Yeah, we'll have the playoff bracket handy. We'll do our predictions to see how it's going to go. So it should be interesting. And then we'll talk about, once again, I guess, who knows between now and next week what the news will be about head coaching possibilities and general manager possibilities and everything else for the Jets.
That's a good game next week, too, this Sunday night game next week, Minnesota-Detroit.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Like, I was just looking at the standings. I'm like, I had no idea that until Detroit. How the hell did Minnesota climb a half a game on top of Detroit? You know, so and now Detroit has to kind of win tonight, right, to make that game. I'm not sure to make that game the number one spot next week.
Well, they're both.
If Detroit wins tonight, they're going to have the same record as Minnesota, so they must have
both be 14-2 going into next going. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's So, but I'm assuming they would have to win tonight. I'm not sure. This stuff it gets crazy, you know, whatever. So, but with that being said, we'll see what happens next week, which it doesn't really matter what happens next week, but we'll talk about the playoff bracket and any other Jet news that we happen to come across. And that being said, I want to wish everybody a happy new year. And the few people that tune into us, we're going to do this religiously, just like we're Jet fans religiously. I don't care how many people watch. I don't care how many losses the Jets have. We're going to move forward, and that's what real Jet fans are about. I still wear this jersey, not when they're winning, but all the time. And one day, hopefully, it'll pay off.
I hope so, Dave. Me too. Hope so.
Yeah. All right, Ed. Happy New Year to everybody.
New Year, Dave.
Be well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.